Most movie monsters are just a big version of an animal you already know. King Kong, big gorilla. The Meg, big shark. Godzilla, big lizard? Dinosaur? Depends who you ask. And then there's Pacific Rim, where the monsters feel like actual living things that crawled out of somewhere real, even though not one of them exists. That is a weirdly hard thing to pull off. So how did they do it? Funnily enough, the same way they did the Jaegers. We took those apart last time. Today, the other half of the autopsy. Look at these for a second. I'm going to mark 5 things on screen. Don't overthink them. Just keep them in mind. We're coming back for every single one. That's the whole video. 5 marks. Let's go earn them. First, the crime scene. Watch the 1998 Godzilla. Just look at it for a bit. It's a big iguana. It runs away from the army. It burrows under New York to hide. It lays a couple hundred eggs, like a salmon, and then it gets put down by missiles off a bridge. The fans were so embarrassed, they gave it its own name, so it wouldn't count as the real one. GINO. Godzilla in name only. You don't rename something you respect. And here's the thing, the design isn't badly made. It moves fine, it renders fine. There's just no animal under there. It's a shape that runs and then dies. Most giant monsters are exactly that. Somebody built them to look cool in one shot, and that's the full extent of the thinking. The thing in Cloverfield, the big ones in the 2014 Godzilla. People genuinely mixed them up. Same few shapes, wearing different skins. Big angry triangles with legs. Now, by rights, Pacific Rim should be the worst offender of the lot. It's got more monsters than most of these films. They're on screen for less time, and they're almost always shot at night, in pouring rain where you can barely make them out. By that math, they should all blur into one forgettable smudge. They don't. And those 5 marks are the reason why. Let's go get the first one. Mark 1. The axe head. The rule behind it is dead simple. Every monster in this film has to be its own species. Not a color swap, not the same body with a fresh paint job. You should be able to tell them apart from shape alone, in the dark, from the back. How they got there is the interesting part. The design team drew about 40 monsters. 40. And Del Toro ran the whole thing like a talent show. Everybody votes, the weakest designs get cut. Vote again, cut again, over and over, until 9 were left standing. So every kaiju that made it on screen had already beaten out 3 or 4 others, just to exist. And what does all that voting buy you, sitting there watching? Every survivor got boiled down to one clear idea. Nothing vague made the cut. You always know exactly which creature you're looking at, even when 2 of them are tangled together, in the rain, in the dark. The one with a blade for a head? That's Knifehead. Nothing else in the film is shaped remotely like him. Your eye grabs him the second he surfaces, and you never lose him in the chaos. Drop him in a lineup, and a 5-year-old points him out. Mark 1. Earned. Marks 2 and 3 are connected. The gorilla shoulders and the hammerhead skull. Every single one of these monsters is built out of real animals. Sound familiar? It's the Jaeger trick. The robots got real shipyards and welded steel. The monsters run the same play, just deeper. Del Toro handed his designers a second set of rules. 3 families, no more. Crustaceans, reptiles, insects. And one big ban. Nothing furry. No big huggable creature with a sweet little face. None of that. On top of that, no watching other monster movies. Same rule as last time. He didn't let the Jaeger team watch mech films either. No Godzilla, nothing from the genre. He pointed them at nature documentaries and 19th century naturalist sketches instead. Old drawings of whales and rhinos. There's even a painting he kept coming back to. Goya's Colossus. A giant figure looming over a tiny landscape. That was the feeling he was chasing. Real weight, real anatomy, blown up to a size it has no business existing at. So yes, you could say leatherback is just a gorilla, but look at it. All arms and shoulders, knuckles on the ground, built to leap on things and hate you. That's Mark II. And Slattern's whole face is a hammerhead shark. Flat, wide skull, eyes shoved right out to the edges. Mark III. Which brings us to Mark IV, the wings. That's Otachi, the show-off of the lot. A bit of dragon, a little dinosaur, a throat that swells up like a frog about to spit, except hers spits acid. A tail with a grip on the end, and a pair of wings she doesn't even show you until the exact second she needs them. She's 4 or 5 real animals, stitched into one thing that should not work. It absolutely works. That's 4 of your 5 marks. Now, before we collect the last mark, this channel has a legal obligation to ask, does any of this biology actually check out? Start with the bones. The square cube law, the thing that kills giant robots, kills giant animals. Deader. Scale a gorilla up to 90 meters, and its skeleton has to carry 1,000 times the weight, with only 100 times the bone. A blue whale, the biggest animal that has ever existed, already needs the ocean just to hold itself together. A kaiju walks onto land like it's nothing. Verdict? No, absolutely not. But then there's the blood. They made it ammonia-based. And that's a real hypothesis. Astrobiologists have seriously proposed ammonia as a stand-in for water in alien biochemistry. And industrial ammonia genuinely is toxic, corrosive, eats through metal. Everything the film claims, we already knew from chemistry class. And the anatomy they borrowed is functional, not decorative. A hammerhead's eyes sit at the edges for wraparound vision. A frog's throat sac is a real inflatable organ. The designers didn't steal shapes, they stole working parts. So the creature is impossible, but every piece of it is honest. Which is, say it with me, exactly the Jaeger trick. Real parts, straight face, impossible total. Grandma signs off. Okay, the 5th mark. The blue light. We marked it last for a reason. Every kaiju has it. Cold blue light running under the skin, up through the mouth, down the spine. The exact same blue on all of them. And it's not mood lighting. It's telling you these things are all alive the same way. One family, same hole in the floor of the Pacific. And it goes past the skin. Cut a kaiju open, and what comes out is a full-blown disaster. They call it kaiju blue. Ammonia. Toxic. Corrosive enough to eat metal and concrete. When one of these things dies in a city, the blood vaporizes, and whole districts become poison zones nobody can live in for years. You lose your neighborhood twice, once when it walks through, and again from what leaks out of the body. Watch the Hong Kong fight. Gypsy pulls out a chainsword and opens Otachi up. And the blue pours out, hissing where it lands. That's an animal with the wrong kind of blood. And the film treats it like a hazmat incident, because that's exactly what it would be. And they take damage like bodies. They stagger. They lose limbs and keep coming with what's left. They get tired. Leatherback goes down swinging. Otachi gets torn apart in the sky. And you wince. You're not supposed to wince for a monster. The film even ranks them. Category 1 to 5. Size, displacement, toxicity. For 2 hours, 5 is just a number. Theoretical. Then Slattern shows up. The only Category 5 in the movie. Your stomach drops before it's done anything, because the scale already did the work. And here's the detail that proves the thinking went all the way down. The film knows somebody's getting rich off this. Dead kaiju don't just get bulldozed. There's a whole black market for the parts. Kaiju bone powder, skin parasites, organs. You can keep them alive if you soak them in ammonia. That's a real line.
I thought you couldn't keep them alive.
You can if you soak them in ammonia.
Delivered by a man named Hannibal Chow, who runs the entire Pacific organ trade out of Hong Kong. and dresses like a Bond villain who won. Del Toro built him a whole economy, harvesting crews in hazmat suits, crawling over a carcass the size of a city block. Street vendors selling bone powder as, don't ask. And people build inside the leftovers. The film shows a temple built inside a kaiju skull, a skull the size of a cathedral. And Hong Kong just moved in. That's what real cities do with real disasters. They metabolize them, because real disasters have economies, insurance categories, salvage rights, black markets. The first film invoiced the monster. Nobody does that. Movies end at the explosion. This one asked who cleans it up, who profits, and what the neighborhood smells like 10 years later. Boring real-world logistics glued onto an impossible animal until your brain files the whole thing under plausible. So add it all up. Every monster its own species, built from real animals, glowing with the same blood, bleeding the same poison, ranked on the same scale. A whole living system, thought through right down to what's in the veins. They absolutely nailed it. And then, 5 years later, the same franchise, if we can even call it that. No, I promised I'm not recycling those jokes. Uprising showed up with a new director, new writers, and a new idea of what these monsters were even for. And to be fair, it doesn't start as rough as you'd expect. 3 new kaiju: Raijin, Hakuja, Shrikethorn. 3 distinct shapes, 3 different animals. Exactly the rule the first film wrote. For a minute you sit there thinking, okay, they get it. We're fine. And then they did the single dumbest thing available to them. They took those 3 monsters and mashed them into one.
Well, he's pretty big.
The Mega Kaiju. 10 eyes, 6 legs, a couple of spiked tails, and every mark on our board breaks at once. Own species? They welded 3 into a lump. Readable silhouette. From the back, in the dark? Good luck. It's a knot of arms and eyes you couldn't draw if someone paid you.
Freaking teenagers! Go for the eyes! Which ones? All of them!
The first film built animals. This thing is a final boss. The kind of video game throws at you on the last level. Nothing about it ever crawled out of an ocean. They made the monster 3 times bigger and about 1/10 as scary. So that's the price. And that's the proof. You can see exactly what the first film got right by watching the sequel get it wrong. Same franchise, twice in a row. Robots and monsters. Which leaves the one thing most people walk straight past. Put the 2 halves side by side. Every kaiju its own species. Every Jaeger its own machine. Monsters built from real animals. Robots built from real shipyards. Bodies that bleed, stagger, and get tired. Machines that vent, spark, and lose arms. It's one design idea. Run twice. Meeting in the middle. 2 massive bodies made of real-world parts trading hits in the rain, while your brain believes every second of it. That's the whole secret. That's why it works. We took the robot half of this apart in the last video. It's got the other half of this argument in it. You know where the button is.